Well, it's been a little while since we did a garden update, and people in the comments section are always requesting for these garden updates. So I figured today was a good time to do one to show you what we've got going on in each of our garden plots and kind of how we're preparing for fall planting, which will be coming up in the next few weeks to the next month or so. So on my property here, I have 10 garden subplots. And after we work our way through all these, you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of garden. But if you think about the overall size of all the plots combined, it's really not a lot. It only comes out to about 1/4 acre or a little over 10,000 square feet. It's just the fact that it's broken up into those subplots makes it seem bigger than it actually is. We like the subplots because it allows us to rotate things and manage our gardens better. We don't let a single plot get out of hand, and we can move things around and cover crop and really take care of our soils better with this kind of subplot method. So 6 of the 10 subplots that I have are in this spot behind me here, which we call our dream garden. And if you've seen any of our other videos this year, you've saw us kind of start that dream garden and develop it as we go. So those 6 are in the dream garden, and then we have 4 other subplots that we've been gardening or farming for about 3 or 4 years now, and they're more established. So let's start out in the dream garden on plot number 1, and then we'll work our way through all the way to plot number 10. In this first plot here, we've got our sorghum Sudan grass cover crop. We showed you how we planted that on one of our previous videos. We've got a really nice stand of this stuff. It's almost waist high in some spots. A lot of biomass growing in here, really dense vegetation. There's not a weed that can even grow in this stuff right here. It's so thick. We'll probably wait a few more weeks before we do something with this. Instead of chopping it up and laying it on top of the soil before we tarp it, I'm actually thinking of trying to crimp it. I don't have a crimper or a roller, but I'm thinking if I put my lawnmower deck all the way down, I can just bend this stuff over and lay a tarp on it. So we'll see how that works, and we'll show you how we do that. But really pleased with this cover crop so far in plot number 1. On plot number 2 here, we've got a real beautiful stand of jambalaya okra. We've got 10 rows here that we planted with our Hoss garden seeder and the row marker. We showed you that on a previous video. Now this okra looks really nice and healthy, but the only thing is it's not producing any okra yet. And I think I've got a pretty good idea why. I've had this happen to me before. Usually this okra starts producing at about 1 foot to 18 inches tall. But with okra, you have to be careful not to give it too much fertilizer. Otherwise, you're just going to get a lot of vegetation and not a lot of pod or okra production. Now, I had my Irish potatoes here in the spring, and I'd put a good bit of chicken manure compost down with those Irish potatoes. And I think a little bit of that was still left in the soil here. So if you leave too much fertilizer in the soil before you plant your okra, you'll get a lot more vegetation and it won't start producing as early as maybe it should. So I think we'll still be okay. I've got okra planted in other spots here that's producing well, so it's not a big concern right now, and they'll work their way out of it. Once they burn up this nitrogen, they'll start producing. But the plants look healthy nonetheless, and we'll just have to have a little patience on this plot. And plot number 3 is where we have our peppers and our eggplants planted. We have 2 rows of eggplants and 4 rows of peppers. We've got those nice and supported with our Florida weed technique, and these things are producing well in the heat. We've been having to give them plenty of water and also fertilize them about every 2 weeks, but everything is still kicking along good here. We've got some of the purple eggplant, we've got some of the striped Italian eggplant, and we've even got some of the long and slender eggplant, the purple shine variety. And then as far as peppers go, we have a huge variety of sweet and hot peppers, and they're all producing really well. Plants look nice and healthy, even considering all the heat and the dry weather we've had. Plot number 4 here is where we had our tomatoes planted in the spring. And upon the advice of several of our viewers, I took the wheat straw mulch that was around the tomatoes and I just spread it out and I tilled it into the soil to kind of help add some organic matter there. I have since came in and planted a cover crop of sun hemp that just came up really nicely and growing really fast. Been keeping a little water to this with the overhead sprinkler, but we got a nice cover crop over this area to kind of help add some nitrogen and help kind of restore these soils for fall. And then in the last 2 subplots of the dream garden, plots number 5 And plot number 6, we've got more cover crops planted. We showed you how we planted those in a previous video. We planted millet over here and we planted buckwheat over here. The millet's looking really nice. We've got a dense mat of vegetation over that entire plot. We're going to leave that, let it keep doing its thing, in no hurry to till that in or to incorporate that into the soil there and turn that plot over. We're just going to let that keep doing its thing. Over here where the buckwheat is starting to flower, so we probably got just another week or so before we need to do something with this plot. The buckwheat did come up a little patchy because I've got a few wet spots over here and I need to do something with that, put something, amend the soil so it doesn't accumulate water in these certain little holes there. But we'll probably go ahead and get this buckwheat mowed or get it tilled in. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to plant a vegetable crop here or turn over and plant another cover crop. So we'll just have to stay tuned for that. Plot number 7 behind me here is my oldest garden plot on the property. I've been gardening here since we moved to this place about 6 years ago. Got a lot going on in this plot, but it's all about to get cleaned out and we're going to cover crop. We've been farming this plot pretty hard here, so we're going to give it a break until about late fall. I've got some okra in here that's on up to about 7 or 8 foot tall. Instead of pulling up the plants, I'm probably just going to take some loppers and cut it clean with the soil, leave that root structure there, and just cover crop on top of it. We've got some lacinato kale that's kind of on its way out. We're about to plant some more, so we'll probably pull that up. Some squash we need to clean up. We've got our cucumbers on the very end, our stonewall cucumbers that did really well, but those are starting to be on their way out. We'll get those cleaned up. And then lastly, I've got some flowers in there and I'll probably just mow those down. They've been great for us, attracting pollinators, but we don't really need any pollinators at this point in the season. And some of them are starting to look a little wilted, so we'll probably just mow those down before we cover crop the whole thing. Plot number 7 is where we have our occultation going on with this silage tarp. We planted a cover crop of sun hemp here. We took the flail mower, chopped it up, and then laid the silage tarp on top of it to help break down that cover crop and also give us a nice weed-free environment for our fall corn that we're going to plant here in a few weeks. Now I have took a few sneak peeks underneath here and I will tell you the soil looks fabulous, but you're going to have to wait to see it. So you're going to have to wait till we do our fall corn planting video in a couple weeks and I'll show you just how beautiful it is. In plot number 9 here, we've got an entire plot of our Georgia Jet sweet potatoes. And these things have covered this entire plot, really dense, nice mat to prevent a whole lot of weed growth there and really let these sweet potatoes thrive. Now I do got a few pigweed popping up I need to get in there and pull, but I really haven't done anything to these guys since I planted them and watered them a little bit to get them going. It seems like every year I change up my sweet potato strategy a little bit, and this year it's just kind of been hands off. Haven't really did anything to these guys. We put some chicken manure fertilizer down when we planted them. We watered them in a little bit, but I've just been letting Mother Nature take care of them and they seem to be doing just fine. And the next month or so, it will be ready to harvest these guys and I'm just going to come in here with a mower and mow all this vegetation down, wait a few days, and then we'll dig our sweet potatoes. And then in the last plot, plot number 10 here, which is kind of a long, skinny plot, we've got 2 things growing. We've got some tiger collards, believe it or not, are still producing extremely well. We planted these way back in January. They're about waist high, 3 to 4 foot tall, and they're still producing really well. But it's getting that time where we need to clean that spot up. So we'll probably pull them up soon and plant us a fresh row or 2 of tiger collards somewhere else. But perfect example here of a crop that you can practically grow year round, even in a southern climate like we live in. On this other side here, I've got some jambalaya okra that I transplanted, 2 rows of it, and it's producing really well. We've been harvesting it every other day. So since I've got this going, I'm not quite as worried about the okra that isn't producing yet in plot number 2. I'm going to leave the okra here. I'm going to clean up those tiger collards, and I'm probably going to plant me some pole beans and maybe a fall crop of cucumbers right here in plot number 10. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that tour, the walk around all of our 10 garden subplots. Like I said earlier, it looks like a lot, but if you add up the square footage, it's really not a lot of garden. It's fairly easy to manage, especially when you break it up into the subplots like we did. We got a decent bit going on, but not a whole lot of stuff that we have to babysit. A lot of cover crops, a lot of things that we're doing to prepare for fall. Fall's probably my favorite time of year to grow a garden, when it starts cooling off a little bit, growing some good stuff, some lettuce, some cabbages, some more collards, kohlrabi, all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are getting ready to plant a fall garden as well. If not, you better get ready, get your seeds started in trays, and let's have a good fall garden this year. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time.